So we've been talking to you about how you are more than this physical body, that you are an extension of source energy, and that you came into this physical body with powerful desire and intention, and that you came knowing that as you sift and sort through life experience, that all of that exposure to all of that variety would give you opportunities to choose what you prefer, so that you could build your preferences one life experience at a time. And you've been doing very well at that. So when you know what you don't want, you know what you do want, and you launch these rockets of desire. And when you emanate that rocket, your inner being, that rocket of desire, when you emanate that rocket of desire, your inner being knows what that's all about and gives undivided attention to it, non-resisted attention to it, pure positive energy attention to it. And that part of you, that desire coupled with your inner being, we have been calling your vibrational reality, and law of attraction is responding to that vibrational reality. And as law of attraction responds to that vibrational reality, there's a strong point of attraction that is happening. And what it is, let's give it a name. It's the becoming of you. It's the evolving of you. It's the you in the state of becoming. You launched the rocket because you knew what you didn't want and knew what you did want, therefore, and your inner being therefore knew what you did want, gave no attention to what you didn't want, knew what you did want, gave no attention to what you didn't want, knew what you did want. And there is a point of attraction that is a powerful influence, you see. So here's law of attraction responding to your inner being, who knows who you are, knows what you want. No, even more, has become that new and improved you, has taken the vibrational evolution that you have set into motion, just like you said you would. And that non-physical you now stands there with that beingness, and law of attraction responds to that part of you. Sometimes you feel like you're being split apart because that's who you are, but you're not letting yourself be there because you're looking at tree trunks and you're coming to conclusions that are not accurate, and you don't feel good while you're doing it either. You feel bad while you're doing it. When you think thoughts about yourself like I'm not good, or I'm not nice, or I'm not smart, or I'm not worthy, or I'm not capable, or I'm not, or you're not nice, or you're not capable, or you're not worthy. When you think those thoughts that your inner being would never, ever, ever think, then you separate yourself is too strong a word, but you sure do put a monkey wrench in the works. You sure do introduce resistance into the equation, and when you do, you feel the emotion that lets you know you're doing that. So we are eager to talk with you about anything that matters to you, but we want you to consider what it feels like to be a physical being who has launched a rocket, handed the baton off to your inner being, who has gathered all the cooperative components and is now handing the baton back to you. This full-blown manifestation that you want, or at least clues to it. But you've got to be in the receptive mode. You can't be in a negative mood. You can't be in a bad mood. You can't be mad at someone, or hating someone, or mad at yourself. You can't be insecure and attract security. You can't be aware that you don't have enough money and let money in. You've got to find a different vibrational frequency. And we've been talking about it in lots of different ways over the years, and many of you have been listening to us for a long time, and we know you've heard so much of all of that. But today, let's call this receptive mode, this receiving mode. And are you getting what it is? You've created a vibrational reality. Where are you standing in relationship to it? Are you receptive to this vibrational reality, or are you receptive to beliefs that hinder that? What have you got your tuner tuned to? When you feel satisfaction, now that satisfaction could be eagerness or enthusiasm. It could even be passion. It could be a feeling of love or appreciation. It could be a feeling of interest. Sometimes Esther will come home at the end of an excursion, and she will walk into her house, and she'll just feel satisfied just to be in this space where she's gathered things that are meaningful. And sometimes she'll just sit here and go over there and go over there and go over there, and she just thinks, I'm so satisfied. I like this so much. Sometimes it's because of a bird calling, sometimes it's because of a butterfly flying, but there is so much reason for so much satisfaction once you start tuning to it. So we want to say to you before we jump into things that the state of satisfaction is being in the receiving mode. And when you're in the receiving mode, then you're tuned in to everything that your inner being knows about where you are in relationship to everything you want. And your inner being has such a broad, clear view. Your inner being is offering you guidance, which you receive in the form of impulses, sometimes in the form of clear sentences. Esther's immediate knee-jerk reaction that she had chopped down trees kept her from hearing us. It took a friend who was not out of the vortex to say to her with words, "That's irrational, silly girl." What do you want to talk about? It's going to be a really good day. We hear you. You're going to like this unfolding, so just relax and enjoy. Let's start right here.
So just continuing with the same
Perfect
path that we were on. So for me, when I'm in meditation, there is a very clear feeling of ease and soothing. And so the reason I love to meditate is to get into that neutral, soft, easy place.
And can you use the word satisfying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful way to put it, because it makes it more tangible when you say satisfied. Something that I heard a teacher say this week is that at the root of all resistance is our inability to accept ourselves.
Maybe, but you don't have to get to the root. And if you try to, you'll just stay there longer. We sort of went down that road a little bit by talking about the way you pick up beliefs along your trail, but we really don't want to talk about how you got them, because when we talk about how you got them, we're talking about them and we're just keeping the resistance going longer, and it's not satisfying to do it. If you've ever tried that, don't you get all defensive and resistant? And sometimes you can have a breakthrough. Sometimes if you make that feel bad enough, just looking away from it gives you such, it's like going to a movie. You're feeling pretty good, go to a movie, it's horrible, it takes you to the depths of despair, and then it has a good ending. And so you were here, and then you went all the way here, and then you came out of the theater about here, and you say, "Oh wow, that was life-changing." Everything's relative, isn't it? Especially when you're talking about emotions. It's relational. Everything is about relativity. We just want you to think about the relativity between you and your vortex and your inner being. So what they said was that if you get to the bottom of all resistance, what you find is
just an unwillingness to accept yourself as being perfect.
Let's say that in the accurate way that it is. If I'm feeling negative emotion, I'm in my human body and I'm feeling negative emotion, I'm not in sync with all that I am, and in my not allowing myself to be all that I am diminished. What were those words?
Unwillingness to accept yourself.
Isn't that what we're talking about? In this moment, not forever and ever. Just don't do it now. Just don't do it now. The more you dig into what those feelings of unworthiness about, is the more you practice the dissatisfaction of that. There's no way out of that. That's why therapy never really ends.
So, but in perspective where we're talking about satisfaction.
Yes.
If I am satisfied with the way things are right now.
Don't get all carried away. Oh, you're helping us make this really, really important distinction. We're not saying that you're satisfied with the progress of your barbecue grill. We're not saying that you're satisfied with the status of your physical whatever. We're not saying that. We're saying that in this moment, because of my state of mind, nothing's activated that's keeping me from alignment, and therefore I am in a state of satisfaction. Therefore I am in the state of receiving. It's like this. You sifted through the contrast, you created what you want, sources all over it, and now it is ready to be received by you in vibrational form, and those vibrations and thoughts are ready to be turned to things. Humans, almost across the board, refuse to feel any satisfaction before it has become a thing. That's kind of what your question was implying. So I should feel satisfied about the things I don't have right. I should be happy about the money that isn't here yet, right? We say, no, because if you're going to make it about that subject, you can't feel satisfied because what you want isn't here yet. You're asking the impossible of yourself. But you could find satisfaction. Would you agree with that? And how? By not thinking about what isn't. By not thinking about the things that are missing. By not thinking about what you've done wrong that are keeping them from being missing. You see, if you could focus in any moment completely upon what's in the vortex, and you can do that once you tune in and you begin receiving these thoughts, your inner being will help you think about them. And oh, that feels so productive when you start receiving those thoughts and you get to turn those thoughts to things. That's really an exhilarating thing. But for the most part, when you talk about what you want before it's happened, you are in a state of dissatisfaction. And the first person who sat here today demonstrated that in a very clear way. Are you following us? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Why would we ever encourage you to talk about what you want? Why would we ever encourage you to tell it the way you want it to be? Why would we ever tell you to tell the story the way you want it to be? Because once you are in alignment, telling it the way you want it to be is your hands in the clay. Nothing is more exhilarating than to be in on the deliberate creating of your experience. But you've got to know what you're under the influence of before you do it, before you start affirming it or talking about it. You've got to know what's going on with you vibrationally. Our best explanation of that is it's like you wouldn't vacuum your living room without plugging the vacuum cleaner in to the electrical current. You could go through all the motions. You could make a lot of marks on your carpet. And if anybody is watching from a silent video, they would think you were doing a really thorough job as you cover every part. But if you haven't plugged the thing in, you're really not getting it done. And if you're not in a state of satisfaction, you're not plugged in. And if you're not plugged in, then you're relying on action, which never is enough. And then you come to the conclusion that you're not worthy. See how it comes around? It's not anything about that. It's just a misunderstanding of when to push on the gas. Don't push on the gas until you're tuned in, and then you don't have to make yourself do it. You feel inspired to do it. Your inner being is just knowing exact, because this is an important thing, and then we'll take a segment of refreshment. Your inner being knows exactly where you are in your physical state of being in relationship to everything you want. That relationship that we were talking about, that relativity, your inner being understands completely. But your inner being never takes attention away from what you have already vibrationally become. That's why that point of attraction is so powerful. That's why that calling is so powerful. That's why that influence is so strong. Now, you've practiced enough thoughts, and some therapist might say to you, you need to get to the bottom of something. But getting to the bottom of it is practicing the very thing that is keeping you from what you're wanting. We're not kidding you about this at all. That's why when mother says, stand here and listen to me, the child is just really not wanting to. And while his feet are nailed to the floor because he knows better than to run, he does everything in his power not to take in much of what she is saying. And then she yells, are you listening to me? And then he says, yes. And then she says, what did I just say to you? And then he says, you said that I'm bad. Good things should never come to me. This is how you get separated. We're not just talking about mother. We're talking about you thinking that you cut the trees down when you had nothing to do with it. All you had was a misunderstanding of how the laws of the universe work, and a misunderstanding of your place in this universe, and a misunderstanding of how Source feels about you, and a misunderstanding of how worthy you are, and a misunderstanding of how good life is supposed to be for you, and a misunderstanding of really how easy this is, and a misunderstanding of how easy it is to get into a state of satisfaction or receiving mode or under the influence of the thoughts and the impulses that will lead you happily to where you want to go. You're supposed to feel good. Life is supposed to be fun. You're supposed to be living happily ever after. And if you're doing something other than that, you're under the wrong influence. This is a really good time for a segment of reflection.